Welcome to Slapshot Podcast, episode number 98. I'm your host, Christopher Morais. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out. Come on in. That's right. Midway through December, 2026 is almost over. I am freezing. Yes, I am freezing. It is cold in Canada, but we're trying to stay warm, trying to enjoy the puck. Lots of things to talk about today, fam. Oh, man. The NHL over the weekend just decided they wanted to do things a little bit differently. Everybody woke up and said, boom, let's make a trade. and hey, look, I'm definitely here for it, man. I'm in. You know what I mean? I want to hear all about it. I mean, listen, blockbuster trades are fantastic. I love it. And some faces changing places, right? We're going to bring back an old segment. We're also going to bring back news. And what I mean by old segment, we're going to talk about Total Tuesday. I did one earlier in the year. I then just never did one again. So we're going to do one again. Why not? This is the holiday season. Why not? Give yourself the gift of money. Right? Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Festivus, of course. Whatever you celebrate, please. Hope this is a great time. If you are new here, you found yourself in here by accident, I appreciate you, being here. You're watching this over on YouTube, go ahead, hit the sub button, ring the bell, drop a like. Leave a comment, too, if you want. Comment section was good. They caught an error in my title. Shout out to the good folk who made it known that Jacob Fowler was not recalled from Laval, because in order to be recalled, you would have had to have been called the first time. So he was called up. So I just changed the wording to promoted. So you see, that's what I need the folks to do. I need you guys to keep me honest, all right? Milo's a terrible producer of this show, so I got to do everything, right? He's hiding somewhere. He is not thrilled with the cold, but I am. Ish, a little bit. So yes, over on the YouTube, make sure you do so. If you enjoy listening to me, because you're like, I don't want to look at you, or maybe you listen to this on your commute to work, right? You can go ahead and listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. If you head over to X, at Slapshot Podcast, you hit the link tree. You can find the podcast everywhere it is available in an audio form. You can follow as well there. You want to follow me on X, you can do so as well at FuzzyChris91. You can leave me your terrible takes. I will read them. Probably disagree with them, but I'll read them. There you go. That's what we got a lot today. Let's get right into the news. All right. We're going to talk about some other things before the big trades that happened over the weekend, but we're going to talk about a little bit of news here. One, I mentioned it, Jacob Fowler. He picked up his first NHL win in his first NHL game against Pittsburgh, following the tradition of other elite Hall of Fame goalies. I know Carey Price isn't there yet. Don't worry, he'll be there. Beating the Pittsburgh Penguins, man. What more can you ask? He was fantastic in that game. And then he goes rewarded with a second start on Saturday in New York. It didn't go as well against the Rangers, but to be fair, the Montreal Canadiens played miserably against the Rangers. That was terrible. Fowler actually played well, right? Because we don't measure goalies based on goals against average and save percentages. Those are team numbers. We measure goalies with what's called goals saved above expected, XGSA, right? You've seen the stat here before. I know some of you, older generation, you don't want to learn about new stats, but they're here, all right? You had a positive goal saved above expected, despite allowing 4 goals, 5 on 5. I just want you to know that. He gave up 4 goals that are like, hey, you could have given up more. So, yeah, the Montreal Canadiens played poorly. They made up for it, though, by taking care of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. If Connor McDavid just had to play the Canadiens, he would be, like, below mid. He would not be good. I'm sure he's real happy to be out of Montreal. Listen, I'm thrilled for him. Good, good for him. good for him and all the success he has. But man, he must hate being in Montreal and the Canadiens are good at shutting him down. Him and Draisaitl, they did nothing. Well, that's not true. They didn't score They did get a power play goal. McDavid did get an assist, but like one assist from Connor McJesus, I'll take that. But a great showing from Fowler. We'll see if he sticks around. I don't know. But he has definitely proven that in a short period of time, he can lead this team. So good for him. Some not so great news is Connor Bedard has been placed on IR. All right. So it's not season-ending IR, right? It's a 7-day IR. So it creates a little bit of cap space for the Hawks. But they have announced that he is probably more week to week. So he will not be playing again in 2025. That is the end of his 2025 calendar year. It was tough too, because the way he got hurt was like off of face-off kind of thing, and it didn't look good. So for now, there's no surgery. That's the good news, right? We'll see how the rehabilitation goes. My first initial thought was, how is this going to affect his participation for the Olympics? Because I believe that he deserves to be on that Canadian Olympic team. Now, obviously, if he gets operated because the rehab isn't going to go, isn't doing what it needs to do, then that puts a damper on that. But this is also bad for the Chicago Blackhawks. Let's keep it a stack here. He is having a great year, and he drives that offense. So the Chicago Blackhawks without Connor Bedard are pretty, mid, I would say. Not fun to watch. It sucks. It's definitely not ideal, but all we know is he's going to be reevaluated at the beginning of 2026. It's not great, but that's like 2 weeks from now. You know what I mean? Like it's not terrible, but it's definitely not great. That's as good as we could put it here. So let's hope it's something serious for Bedard to get back on the ice. My fantasy team would enjoy that as well. So. And a final thing here dropped today as well. The Buffalo Sabres finally did something good. They fired Kevyn Adams, their general manager. They have replaced him with Jarmo Kakalainen. If that name rings a bell, it's because he was a general manager in Columbus. So, yeah, the Sabres finally figured out that maybe the last 5 years with Adams in charge has not gone well. They have not done well. Right? Like, you don't have to be a Sabres fan to know that. In his tenure there, in the 5 years, right? We'll cut him some slack this year because he's not there to finish it. But the Buffalo Sabres finished 31st, 24th, 20th, 22nd, and 26th in the 5 years he was there. Now the Sabres are currently 24th. They sit last in the Atlantic. I don't even have to check. That's just a good guesstimate for this team. Change is needed here. This team will forever be rebuilding. The Buffalo Sabres had pieces. Those pieces have gone on to win Stanley Cups with other teams. Nobody wants to be there. And it starts from the top, right? I think it's time Terry Pegula take his money and just, run, sell the team. Let somebody else come in here and help them. Right? Because it's not working. When Terry Pegula bought the team, he's like, we're going to turn this team into a championship team. That has not happened. I know he's got deep pockets, which is important for NHL owners to have. We know that can play a factor. But it feels like this team's going to go through another rebuild. For what? They haven't made the playoffs in, what is it now, like 13 plus years? Like, I feel bad for the fan base a little bit. One, because if you live in Buffalo, that's unfortunate. But then your team is terrible as well. It's tough, man. It's tough. We'll see what Kakalainen does. He was there during that tenor where, Sergei Bobrovsky left. There's questionable, deals with Matt Duchene went down. Like, we'll see how this goes. A new vision probably helps. There's been so many coaches that have gone through the door in Buffalo. We'll see if Lindy Ruff sticks around or if his second tenor is way short than his first one, but it just doesn't seem fun to play in Buffalo. And I don't play there. I just watch. So I can't imagine for a player it being a good time. They have pieces there, right? They've had some first overall picks. Like something's got to happen there. Something's got to happen. Anyways, it's one step in the right direction because Kevyn Adams was just not it. Not it. So, yeah, that is the news of the week. Again, if you're living under a rock, maybe you had no idea what was going on. You're welcome. Now you're up to date with everything that's going on. Let's turn our attention to what do I want to do here first? Let's do Total Tuesday here, all right? So if you didn't see the first one, right, pretty simple, right? We're going to pick a total. So a total is the number of goals scored in a game for the Tuesday slate. We're going to pick one, all right? You can bet on it. I am 1-0 this year on Total Tuesday. So you do what you wish with that information. The last one was Kings and Sharks. I think I had the over in that one too. But it went well. So I was like, why not bring it back like 2 months later? You know what I mean? That makes sense. So let me give you one here. All right. I feel like this is a great one. I looked at it and I was like, yeah, this seems like where I want to be. This is what I want to watch. So the Total Tuesday bet is the Edmonton Oilers and the Pittsburgh Penguins over 6.5 goals. So I expect them to score at least 7 goals combined between the two teams. You can get that at -102 over on Pinnacle. You can place that bet wherever, whatever sports book you use. As always, please play responsibly, gamble within your means. All right. Listen, the Edmonton Oilers, they went into Toronto. They scored 6 there. Then they showed up at the Bell Center, couldn't make it work. But I think they should be okay against the Penguins. If everything sets up as it should, we should see Stuart Skinner and Tristan Jarry face off against their former teams. The NHL needs to give us this. But, the script, that's what the script needs to be, okay? Each of these teams need to give us that. It's important. I want to see it, okay? I want to see it. Lots of history can be made in this game. Sidney Crosby's 2 points away from passing Mario Lemieux for most points in team history. Draisaitl, I think, is a point away from 1,000. There's a lot of history that can be made in this game. And when you're playing your former team, sometimes you have a little bit of money on the board. You want to play well. I get that. I do. But I also understand the amount of firepower that's on each side. Okay. And those guys that are going on the other side, right? The goalies, they know the weaknesses on the other side, right? The Penguins know what Tristan Jarry's weaknesses are. Jarry will be like, hey, this is what we can exploit on the Penguin side. Because, I was there last week, so, plan didn't really change. That's the same thing for Stuart Skinner, So I just expect there to be a lot of knowing what the weaknesses are on the other end. These are two high event teams. The Penguins play well at home, too. The Oilers struggle a little bit on the road to score goals in general, but Evan Bouchard's on the ice. And when he's on the ice, he's going to turn the puck over, right? Montreal had 4 breakaways? And Calvin Pickard all of a sudden, on a random Sunday in December, becomes a stone wall, doesn't let anything in. I don't think that's going to happen in this game. So this is the Total Tuesday bet. You can, if you want to find it again, it'll be up on the X, right? @Slapshot Podcast. I'm going to try to do one every Tuesday. Now, again, I said I did it once, and then I went on hiatus about it. So take that with a grain of salt. But maybe if we pick up another W, then, maybe we just let this ride. Maybe. I don't know. So there you go. That's the Total Tuesday bet. Again, please, I beg of you, play responsibly, okay? Don't gamble money you do not have, all right? Because that'll make my mom sad. We don't want to make mom sad, all right? We don't want to do that. So let's turn our attention. We'll stick with the Penguins. And we'll stick with the Oilers here because they, like I said, they did complete a trade. And I don't know why. I don't know why this happened, but listen. Sometimes you got to take candy from a baby, and that baby is Stan Bowman. Listen, this is what happens if you live under a tree. Tristan Jarry heads over, like I said, to the Oilers. Sam Poulin goes that way as well. The Penguins received a second round pick in 2029. 4 years down the road, they're like, hey, man, can we have a second round pick? And the Oilers are like, sure, man, not a problem. By then, McDavid will have moved on and whatnot, so they'll be terrible and probably be an early pick. Brett Kulak goes that way as well. Stuart Skinner, obviously, goes that way. The initial reaction to this trade was, why are the Edmonton Oilers doing this? Right? Now, if you remember back a year ago-ish, Tristan Jarry was on waivers. That's how bad he was. You could have gotten him for free at about half the cost. But that's not how it went, right? Instead, Stan Bowman says, well, let me give you a pick, right? Which the Penguins can take, right? They've been good, Pittsburgh, but the writing is on the wall. At some point, this team is going to be terrible because Letang will move on, Malkin will move on, Crosby will move on, and this team's going to go through a rebuild, kind of. So this was some pretty good work here, some tidy work from Kyle Dubas. Like, round of applause to him. Because you moved off from that Tristan Jarry contract. He still has, I think, 2 years left after this year at just shy of $6 million. Kulak and Skinner are pending UFAs. Now, if things don't work out in the extremely tight Metropolitan Division, right? If the Penguins get to the deadline and they're not really a playoff team, then you can move both Skinner and Kulak. The Penguins have two really young goalies in the system. They're in Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Okay, I can't name their names off the top of my head, but even if I was looking at them, I wouldn't be able to say them either. Those kids are probably going to be the future in Pittsburgh. And ideally, I guess you'd want to have one in the NHL, kind of split starts, maybe one in the American Hockey League. There's nothing wrong with having both there. It's just, you want to give the kid a little bit of run. Anyways, Stuart Skinner comes in here. This is a chance for him to, I wouldn't say save his career, but to bring his value up a little bit. Okay? I will reiterate this until the day I die. He was not the problem in Edmonton. Okay? I know the goaltending wasn't good, but the defense in front of him did him no favors. Okay? But Edmonton is convinced that it's a goaltending problem, so they went out and they bought Tristan Jarry. Again, tiny work from Kyle Dubas here because he's capitalizing on Tristan Jarry's resurgence in the short term to flip him for 3 assets, right? That's what he got. Because if the Penguins sell, you could probably get, maybe a later round pick, maybe 4th round pick for Kulak. Maybe you could flip Stuart Skinner for a, 2nd round pick, conditional first, down the road to a team that needs goaltending. You have assets to work with. Or if the Penguins are in a hunt for a playoff spot, let Skinner go with it. The Penguins have played a lot better. They're a good team. Defensively, it has been a lot better. They do not give up as many shots. Their power play is very good, obviously. That helps. But this is a well-structured Pittsburgh team. Okay? Dan Muse has done a fantastic job with this team. And I think that's going to help Stuart Skinner in the same way that it helped Jarry, right? Yes, Jarry is playing better, but the team in front of him is also playing better. And for Edmonton, we're about to find out just how bad that defensive group is. Because it's going to be tough for Tristan Jarry on most nights. And the Edmonton Oilers got to live with it. If he's the missing piece to get them over the hump, right? They've been to 2 finals. They've lost both. I don't know. But this, to me, feels like a trade a little bit out of panic for Stan Bowman and just paying way too much. And Kyle Dubas saying, yeah, man, I'll take him. Yeah, Kyle Dubas, yeah, you want him, man? I'll take your goalie. That's fine. And again, at worst, you have assets to move. Pittsburgh can package these players and move them and get picks. And once you get a couple of picks, then you can, use those picks to move up in the draft. Or it's about owning assets. And Pittsburgh has 3 assets now. How they use them will be up to Dubas. But if it doesn't work out, they can let these guys. I don't think they'll let them walk. Maybe Kulak gets re-signed, cheaper deal, right? Third pairing guy. They did put Dumba on waivers, so we'll see how that goes for them. But they have pieces here. Again, initial reaction was this is a dub for Dubas and the Penguins. I don't know what Stan Bowman's doing on this side, man. They didn't address the number one need, which is defensive help. They are real thin up front. Some players have come back, which has helped. Nugent Hopkins back in the lineup. Hyman is back in the lineup, so they're back to being a top 6 heavy team. We'll see if the depth can keep up. But I understand why the Penguins were willing to swap goalies and pick up a couple of assets. So good for them. Nothing wrong with that. This to me is a W for the Pittsburgh Penguins. All right. Sorry, Edmonton. Just do better, I guess. I don't know. Whatever it is. The second trade that hit us, this one hit like a ton of bricks. I was coming out of so I played hockey on Friday. So from 7 to 8, I was on the ice. I got off the ice at 8, check my phone naturally, see what's going on in the world, and then this hit me, right? The Quinn Hughes deal just smacked me in the face. I was like, is this real? And then the first thing I do is I check to see if Elliot Friedman tweets it, because if he tweets it, then it's real. That's how I know it's real. I wait for Elliot Friedman's confirmation. I saw it, and I went, okay, here we are. So Quinn Hughes is now a Minnesota Wild, and the Vancouver Canucks, well, they acquired some serious assets here. Vancouver Canucks acquired Marco Rossi, a 2026 first-round pick, Zev Buyam, and Liam Ogren. Okay? This to me signals the official rebuild for the Vancouver Canucks. This is where we're at. And on the surface, you can sugarcoat this however you like. But in the short term, the Vancouver Canucks obviously lose this trade because they are not acquiring the best player in the deal, right? That is Quinn Hughes. He is, without a doubt, a top 5 defenseman in the NHL. And he's probably a top 3. And you could have a serious conversation with me, and he could probably be top 2 behind only Cale Makar. Quinn Hughes is elite offensively. He is elite defensively. And he joins a very good Minnesota Wild, right? He scored a goal in his first game because obviously he did, right? Why wouldn't he? And give a lot of credit to Bill Guerin and the absolute cojones that he had, because all the talk about Quinn Hughes was, he's going to end up in Jersey to play with his brothers, and maybe he does get there because everybody has said it. There was no guarantee that Quinn Hughes stays in Minnesota, right? There's no guarantee. So you technically traded the Wild. All 3 of those players were first-round picks, including the pick. Now, you traded 4 first-round picks for Quinn Hughes. That's the asking price, by the way. That's what it, like, I get why Rutherford and Alvin said, yeah, we'll do this, because that is a fantastic return, right? In the future, maybe the Wild don't lose. I'm sorry, maybe the Canucks don't lose. But again, this is this is part of the rebuild. You had a lot of players in place. You've had to move some. Moving Quinn Hughes is tough. But again, I'm sure he had conversations with the gang and said, hey, look, I'm probably not going to re-sign here. So he did his team a solid. And they said, okay, well, let's shop the process. Let's start it and see where we can send you that'll make you happy as well. And Minnesota feels like a good fit. He now enters a gauntlet division, right? Like, look at this from a Minnesota Wild standpoint. They're in a division with the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche. Like, if you have a chance to get a talented defenseman like Quinn Hughes, go out and do it. And it was very interesting in the presser after that Quinn Hughes gave. I forget who they played Boston after. He said he was very open-minded to staying and that he understands like what Bill Guerin gave up to acquire him, right? And that was, and you know, I listened to it a couple of times because it's kind of a player saying, hey, like you paid the farm to have me. That's how highly you think of me. Like that's not something you just kind of disregard, right? And go, well, you know, it doesn't matter. That's how highly management thought of him. To say, hey, what does it cost? And then to open your wallet and do it. Because other teams are always down with, okay, well, what's it going to cost? And then you get the cost and they're like, yeah, we're nowhere near that. And there were teams that were probably in the conversation, right? New Jersey probably was one. There was talk about, the Washington Capitals being another team that was in the conversation. I'm sure once they found out what the Minnesota Wild were willing to pay, they went, nope, not doing that. Because that is a lot for, if he doesn't sign, you know what I mean? You took a stab and maybe you set your team back a couple of years. Maybe. But credit to Bill Guerin for saying, hey, this was apparently the first, like the only offer that Minnesota made. So right out of the gate, which is how I like trades to be done. If you're in a fantasy league with me, this is how I want it done. One offer, make it extremely strong. Okay? No lowball offers. Bill Guerin showed up with what this team wanted, and they, did their due diligence. I think Vancouver figured out pretty quick they weren't going to get a better offer here. They said, yeah, we'll take it. Marco Rossi is a great player. He's still young, okay? To me, the big win here is Zev Buium, right? I was very high on him coming into the year. He started off strong. He's tailed a little bit, right? Brock Faber took over the power play again. Now Buium goes to Vancouver where he can not necessarily like take Quinn Hughes' spot because nobody will, but he's going to get the opportunity to play a ton of minutes. Quarterback the top power play unit, right? He had 2 points in his first game, right? It is what it is. Liam Ogren is probably a middle six forward, which the Vancouver Canucks need anyways. So, and the first round pick is whatever you make of it. But from a fantasy perspective, there's a lot to like here, right? There is, especially for a guy, for Marco Rossi. He's going to get a chance to play. Not that he didn't get the chance to play with Kaprizov and, Boldy. He's not going to get that, but he's going to get an opportunity to play some meaningful minutes, big minutes here. Zev Buium, if he's on your waiver wire, by the way, he shouldn't be anymore. He should. I tried to pick him up in some leagues, just didn't. It didn't work out. Some people were holding on to him, smart. Other people outbid me for it. That's also smart. But again, today the Minnesota Wild win that trade because they go out and they get the best player. It's as simple as that. And maybe we don't see the Quinn brother, the Hughes brothers all play together in New Jersey. All right? It's not a given. Maybe Jack and the gang leave New Jersey if they're not doing well and say, hey, let's all meet up in Minnesota. I don't know. But it's not lost on Quinn Hughes of what the price was to get him. And that speaks a lot, I guess. I can feel what Hughes is feeling in a certain way. To be desired by a team. Actually, well, I mean, I can't feel it. But like, it would be the same thing as like, I don't know. I guess your employer like going all out to get you. You know what I mean? Like, I guess it's the same thing. Like, it's not lost on you, right? You paid the house for maybe a year and a half. But now you get a year and a half to convince him and say, hey, man, first of all, you can negotiate with Hughes as of July 1st, because that'll have he'll have 1 year left on his deal. You could still negotiate that 1 year deal. This is the last year before, I think it's September 15th when the CBA restructure for contracts hits. So this is the last year where you could offer 8-year deals with a bunch of signing bonus money way up front, right? This is one of those years. We'll see how they go down that path, but that's Bill Guerin's can to kick down to a later date. Good chance that Quinn is going to make the United States roster, right, for the Olympics, which Bill Guerin, again, is the GM of. So there's a lot of opportunities here for, Quinn and Bill to work together and say, hey, let's build something here, If you want to play with your brothers, and you want to go off to Jersey, we'll figure that out at that point. If that's absolutely what he wants to do, then that's absolutely what he wants to do. But maybe Guerin can convince him. And if he does, let's say he does sign a long-term deal to stay in Minnesota, then what you gave up is fair, right? Guerin said it perfectly. You're not going to be able to try to get a quick one by these guys, right? It's not going to happen. You're not going to try to, steal from Jim Rutherford and, Alvin out there in Vancouver. It's not one of those things. These guys are, they're professional. They're good at what they do. They're good at the jobs that they try to acquire. Again, tough situation for Vancouver. I get it, man. You lose, you don't have the best player in the deal. You got a lot of good players. And, will Buium live up to be Quinn Hughes? Probably not. But if he turns out to be a really, really, really good defenseman, then, it's not the end of the world. But this trade I was like, man, this is hockey, baby. This is this felt like a fantasy hockey trade. That was good. So, just excited to see how this works out for both sides. But yes, if you need Zev Buium, if he's on your waiver wire, I don't know about Marco Rossi yet. I got to see that in action a little bit more. Liam Olgren is not something I'm, middle six winger guy, he's still got time to develop. It's not the end of the world. Quinn Hughes is not on your waiver wire. You're probably not going to be able to trade for him either because now his value's through the roof. You know what I mean? Like, he gets to be on a power play with Kaprizov and Boldy. So, I mean, talk about the opportunities that could come to you there. To the moon for Hughes. But again, I'm interested in knowing what happens later on down the road. Once you get closer to, does he want to re-sign? Will he re-sign? All that noise that was apparently in Vancouver, right? Now it's about, well, what is that noise like in Minnesota? But it's a good day if you're a Minnesota Wild fan. Definitely a good day. You got the best player out of the deal, man. You win those deals in the short term. When you get the best player in the deal, that's a short-term win. How it pans out long-term, that is a different story. But, and again, credit to Bill Guerin for saying, hey, let's do this. We are going to do it. Let's give them what they want. Let's make it, the best offer we can get and see if we can go out and get a really talented player. And here he is. So those were the two trades that happened. We got our Total Tuesday bet done. We did everything we needed to do today. That was fantastic. It was a fantastic episode. I appreciate all of you hanging out with me today. As always, if you are watching this over on YouTube, okay, go ahead, hit the sub button, ring the bell. All right, like the video, right? Drop a comment. I'd appreciate that a ton. If you want to listen to this, head over to the at Slapshot Podcast on X. Hit the link tree in the description. Click on wherever you enjoy your podcasts and subscribe on that platform. You can follow me on Twitter as well, at FuzzyChris91. This has been a blast. We are probably going to do another one next Monday. I know, consistency. Who would have thought, right? One more before Christmas. But again, this is a great time to be. Hockey is in full swing. We're almost at the halfway point, ladies and gentlemen. Almost halfway through the year, all right? But until then, I love you. Thank you for hanging out with me. It's been a blast. We'll talk to each other again soon, okay?